Technology hindered or strengthened your communication skills? In what ways, and how have you noticed?
Okay. So I think that as technology is evolving, our communication skills are like going down because people are forgetting how to like write and communicate effectively and like verbally, since a lot of us are moving towards text and a lot of emailing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed that just literacy and just like the wording we use and stuff like that is becoming very elementary.
Yep.
Like people are using the simplest form of words and stuff.
Okay. Has technology become an issue? Do you think it's becoming a social issue?
Definitely, I think it's becoming an issue, and even more so a social issue. Like you're at a party or with friends, and your friends are texting or something like that. I work at an Italian restaurant, and so like when I see people, especially on Valentine's Day, when we see a bunch of couples that are out on a date, Valentine's is so romantic, and both of them are on their phones.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so I think that it's definitely ruining like social interactions because like the way you build on your relationships is through actually communicating like face to face.
Okay. About how many times a day are friends not paying attention to you because they are using their cell phones mid conversation?
A lot of times, and I'm also guilty of this. Last night, my boyfriend and I were talking, and he was telling me a story, and I was looking at pictures or some other thing on Facebook, and that's like he was like, "Are you even listening to me?" And I was, but I forgot a big portion of what he was saying, and so I think that was really annoying for him, and it's really annoying for me when I'm trying to tell people too, and they're just looking at stuff like, "Are you even listening? Are you even hearing what I'm saying?"
Yeah.
Because people like to think that they can multitask, but studies show that you can't.
Yeah. What do you believe the future generations will be like due to lack of person-to-person interaction and more person-technology interactions?
That honestly makes me pretty nervous. Just because, like, I see my brother growing up in that generation. He's 15 now, and it's just weird with the amount of, like, yeah, he still tries to go out to the movies and stuff, but a lot of them, especially since he's a gamer, they go through, like, their games and online that way. And then, like, just texting and Facebook. A lot of middle schoolers are into Instagram. A lot of high schoolers are into Twitter, and so it's just like that's where people are getting their news too. So like the news, I think like newspapers and everything, like no one uses those anymore, hardly ever. And now the news is kind of being watched less and less, just because that's where people are getting their sources of information.
And it's scary because half the stuff on Facebook or Instagram, anything is not credible. It's just fake stories. It's not reputable.
Like, are you looking at an article that's by the Huffington Post or by CNN? And it's really difficult because, like, even I would much rather read a Huffington Post article than the actual article that's from a reliable source. So it's just.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. Like, maybe HuffPost does, like, more relatable things. And I think that news sources just go for, like, the broad, this is what's going on in America. And a lot of people could care less. Like, very few people care what the U.S. and what other countries are doing. And so it just comes to that. So, like, I'm just really nervous to see what's going to happen. So
definitely.
Technology's growing.
Yes. And last question. It's a quote by Albert Einstein. He said, "I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots." Do you agree or disagree with him?
I love his quote, and I don't think that necessarily will be idiots, but then again, I don't think we'll be very thoughtful, logical creatures anymore. It's funny to use that word, but that's kind of how I feel about it, because teachers in elementary school especially are now being seen as just daycare providers. Like, they're not even being seen as educators. And that's very weird, because it's like, you need to keep, like, educating the new population so that they can grow on stuff. But if we're getting, like, email updates from like the president of the United States, like we do from the president of the university, like that's what everything's going to turn to, and that's not as reliable and not as personal either. Like a lot of things that you talk about would be a lot better if they did like a formal address, and like even though you can't be there in person, like they're doing it over like the television, so it's like better pay attention kind of stuff. But then again, it goes back into, are you really paying attention, or are you looking at your phone while the really important stuff
watching
is on
the address?
TV? Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.